immediately. Virtus Pro's strategy, Rad follow this as well, is taking the Magneto out of the mix entirely and then saving the EMEA, as it's going to be Brbrpatapim actually choosing to begin on the attacker's side. So it's going to be insta-bans for both teams, Magneto and EMEA removed. However, Brbrpatapim are now going to be able to secure the hero that is going to be safe from Schmungus, barring them out of it. And they decide not for the EMEA, but for the Magneto, because Schmungus went for the EMEA first.
Likely means that Schmungus probably going to ban Loki or Luna here and then secure the EMEA for themselves. We're yet to see any pivots in the bans towards getting rid of Punisher, who has kind of become the de facto meta duelist at the moment, often being used as a last to protect. Oh, wait, prioritization for Andrew here. Trying to make sure that Andrew's Venom is available, given that he isn't a Venom enthusiast.
Yes, and I mean, that's going to further strengthen Necros as well on the Spider-Man, as Brbrpatapim on that attacker side now can transition into 3 back-to-back bans. So now they're going to start shaving down the strategist lineup. Luna is the first to go, then the Loki is going to follow suit, and now they have 1 more ban, but before they can utilize it, Schmungus have the opportunity of protecting, and they're going to save the Wolverine, which means that Brbrpatapim can now target another strategist if they so choose.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the advanced ban system for tournaments before, the bans are only for the opposing side. So you're trying to craft or remove options from the enemy to play against you, whereas the enemy is doing the same to make sure that you can't play the heroes that they do not want to see. A very strategist-heavy ban pool here for the side of Brbrpatapim. We're going to make sure that Schmungus have very few options. Likely going to have to rely on the Invis, maybe even something like a Rocket with 3 of these strategists gone. You could pivot into something like a triple res with an Adam and a Mantis. The protection here, though, of the Captain America is going to make sure whatever's in that back line is going to be very heavily harried.
Yeah, so this is a strategy that a lot of teams on the attacking side have started to develop, where you take 3 strategists out of the mix and you try and force your opponents onto either a rough backline position with a 2-2-2 composition, or they're forced onto the triple strategist with something like the Ultron in the mix. As it looks like Desley will still be able to play that Invis woman, but with KG probably having to go over to the Mantis, there it is. There's the force of the Ultron that Brbrpatapim were wanting to secure.
Okay, triple strategist. 2 of them less raw output when it comes to healing, at least less burst from the Ultron. And the Mantis is going to require proactive reading of engages in order to set up those healing resources in advance and avoid a squishy member being burst down.
Yeah, this is actually really smart from Brbrpatapim, because by denying the backline strategists that everyone on the side of Schmungus wanted, they've been able to take away the resources that could potentially be put towards Scarlet Witch pick. So it's not going to be the Doctor Strange, it's not going to be the Scarlet Witch. They don't have the means, the tools of being able to keep that hero alive. And so it is going to have to be that triple strategist composition. I mean, Ultron does build Rate of Ultron really, really quickly off of the burst damage potential that is available, but it's not on the same level of some of these other strategist ultimates in terms of survivability or even pressure that it puts out onto the opposing team. And with Brbrpatapim being able to secure both the Psylocke and the Captain America, they have a lot of dive potential to just continue bothering this back line.
Oh yeah, Pokey and Polly, this duo that was picked up for the former OG roster to really strengthen their core. They are going to be absolutely marauding in the backlines as we head out here onto our first matchup of Krakoa here on the carousel. Already forcing out the diamond form of Emma Frost is going to make her a little bit less threatening. Necros needs to find a health pack, and indeed we'll be able to dodge away onto that. Pokey's going to be able to play the margins here and make sure that Necros is continually zoned away from this. It looks like Schmungus do have a little bit of capture on the point, but Brbrpatapim quickly taking all of that space away once again.
Yeah, Tanuki on the off angle, keeping up the pressure onto the back line, sends them right into the Psylocke. Loki's able to take out the Spider-Man. Craggy, though, does trade it back with a pick onto the Captain America, and now lacking one of those dive engagement options. Brbrpatapim is going to be stuck for options in terms of engagement.
Yeah, still no first capture here on the mission area. Nice tracking coming through from Andrew. Gets 2 with the help of Bogu, finds the final hit. And guess what? Craig has already got themselves an ultimate, lays down the Rage of Ultron, and picks up the point.
Yeah, that Rage of Ultron just builds immensely fast, even in comparison to something like Alex's Eternal Bond. But then again, Brbrpatapim's players are playing pretty split, which is going to be impacting the amount of healing that that cloak is able to output with that AoE on the Light Force daggers. As we can see that Schmungus, with that first control, can now start utilizing the mobility of some of these heroes, both the Spider-Man and the Venom, to bounce the point between themselves, as opposed to Brbrpatapim, who are going to have to look for an aggressive opening.
Yeah, that do-si-do of contesting could be everything. Big pressure there onto Polly, but Necros has a far smaller health pool to try and play with. A single mistake and it can be punished, and of course you can be dragged in as you try and disengage as well. Ken with those force physics could have been responsible for that, but easy tracking onto Andrew. It's a big hitbox and it's a smaller health pool that's reduced to 0 as Brbrpatapim quickly execute on a retake.
42% of the point picked up for Schmungus, but Brbrpatapim have a lot of ultimates on the board to be able to stall out this next fight. And with the Captain America, they do have pretty much eternal stall, as Schmungus are missing significant burst damage potential. Kragi on that Ultron is going to be able to help out in that option, but without him, the Spider-Man is not going to be doing enough to burst through the health pools of Brbrpatapim's line.
Yeah, we're going to use that help growing in on to the Psylocke. Great usage of the invisible boundary there. Trying to get rid of Pokey before we can get back into the invisible boundary and receive that healing. But everyone just dives on in and finds himself sustained. On the other side, Desley not so lucky. Galactic Legend takes to the air. And while Boga tries to control Tanuki in the air, look at that. The Guardian Shield allowed Tanuki to hang around for long enough to find Necros. Evil Body was evasive. The easy tracking of the element guns quickly tore through Spider flesh and kept Brbrpatapim in control.
Yeah, and he's able to peel for his backline too. Andrew is denied getting a hit onto that backline, and he does have Feast of the Abyss, but without the Luna, without that damage boost, it's going to be up to the Mantis's inspiration coming through from KG for that 12% damage push to try and have the pick potential on this Venom ultimate. It's even getting that Ultron drone. They want to try and make sure that this Venom is that engagement option. Brbrpatapim is going to be able to scout out where the Venom is coming from and force a lot of that health down already low before the engagement can even come on through.
Oh, watch that blue aura. Came up trump there. The cellular corrosion taking care of Ken in the end. Remember, it slows as well when it is attached. Also going to be an investment here of the invisible boundary. It's all in from Schmungus. It's win now or don't win at all. And Tanuki's still hanging around with the fate of both, with the Blaster Barrage to try and make things happen. Pokey on the other side, though, of a Sonic Crossbow. It's doing so much in the back line. It's been torn apart, and Boga does not have the time to try and make this work. In overtime, Crag is going to emerge and see TP back. Does have a health pool to try and work with here, as well as multiple life spores coming through from the Mantis to try and sustain them. A quick dip out elsewhere, and the body blocks have arrived from Brbrpatapim. It's clean on the defense.
Yeah, wonderful Terror Cape as well coming on through from Brbrpatapim, connecting onto him as the second that the Strange Shield drops. Instantly getting that weakness, getting that 28% damage amplification onto him from all sources of damage. The Strange falls very, very quickly, doesn't have the stall potential to let one of Schmungus's other members pile through that portal on after him. And that means that they're not going to have the portal for the access of the first fight. Brbrpatapim are going to be coming into this with a lot of ultimates. Pokey with the Dance of the Butterflies is going to be one to keep your eye on, because Schmungus are going to have to stack their players close to each other to be able to absorb the hit. They're too far away from the soul resurgence from the Mantis, and that's going to impact their dive prowess, because they're going to have to play protect the backline as opposed to Brbrpatapim, who can play as aggressive as they want.
And you better believe when you group up to try and deal with that Dance of the Butterflies, Tanuki's going to be there on top with the Blaster Barrage, farming up the last 12% of ult charge in no time at all. Necro's going to be in danger. Going to have to be counting those swings, because it's easily counted by the Star-Lord if you're caught unawares.
Yeah, Boga needs to get the Psionic Seduction online and quickly, as Brbrpatapim are already setting up the flank. Captain America and the Psylocke ready to hit in. The Cap's going to be able to create all of that attention before Pokey can come through with that ultimate, as Necros actually takes matters into his own hands, comes in early, disrupts Brbrpatapim's plans.
This engagement is strong, but it is going to leave Andrew with very few friends here on the point. Boga comes in for a little bit of brawling in the Diamond Fall. Eyes on the strategist in the back. Pokeys, they're cooking back here. Forces out the Mantis ultimate, still having that Dance of the Butterflies in the back. Out comes a spectacular spin. It seems to have stunned turned up Alex, but they can't find the final hit. It seems like for now, Brbrpatapim are just getting all the healing where it needs to be, and Schmungus can't find the final blows until the Rage of Ultron managed to find Pokey in the midst of all of this. Necros with an audacious challenge in the air towards the Galactic Legend is finally put to bed. Tanuki down to 1. Can they get towards the Eternal Bond? No. Taken out a little bit earlier. Great target prioritization coming through from Schmungus. When it comes to these first fights where they've got all the time in the world to plan, that's where Schmungus are at their strongest.
Yeah, they did such a good job with Necros going in for that tempo change-up, stopping Brbrpatapim, forcing them to have to peel for that backline, but this fight is not over yet. Andrew dives into the backline, tries to force Brbrpatapim to have to peel the Venom rather than getting to play aggressive, and that's bought them the space to take the Psylocke down. Craggy on this Ultron is untouched right now, and he's going to have another Rage of Ultron before Brbrpatapim can hit another Galactic Legend.
It's going to be an invisible boundary drawn up here in response to Polly moving forward with a living legend, giving everyone that over health, and now into a backline undefended and undeterred is the Captain America. Craggy decides for this time to get aggressive, try and even this one up, and indeed it is going to be an effective trade, but gets themselves for the back of it. And while Alex falls down as well, Tanuki's already done enough damage, and Tanuki and Pokey now have all the free reign they need over this point. Andrew's forced to get away after using that symbiotic resilience to get a little bit of additional health, and there's the first capture, Moxie.
A little bit of a longer, which is something that we expected to see. Both of these teams running incredibly mobile heroes who can just continue to bounce on to contesting that point and trade it off like a relay race. But now that Brbrpatapim are in control of the situation, they should be able to stall out the point for at least 50%. Schmungus going to have to be farming up some of these ultimates. They're going to have Psionic Seduction, but what is the follow-up to be? Potentially a spectacular spin coming on through from Necros, but that's a little bit of a ways away, and it's actually going to be an opener of Soul Resurgence coming on through from KG to give the damage boost over to Andrew's Feast of the Abyss, which claims 2.
Oh, Andrew demolishing the backline. Great value out of the Venom. That's why we see the Protect invested, and Polly's going to be the last to fall. Look, down to the Tendrils. Tanuki was just hanging around in the end, and there we go. Schmungus finally back in control, and this is where Spider-Man can really be a pain when you're trying to make your engagement happen, and he's just in the back annoying you.
Yeah, he's got that spectacular spin online too. He might be able to force Alex into parting with Eternal Bond before Brbrpatapim can get themselves onto point. Pokey does have the Dance of the Butterflies. We saw the last time that Schmungus mixed up the timing, and it's going to be an aggressive Eternal Bond entrance actually to give Brbrpatapim the sustainability to get close enough and pressure Schmungus into parting with ultimates themselves.
Oh, crazy utility out of Cloak, making multiple people vulnerable. They're trying their best to try and avoid Tanuki. Necros once again goes for the aerial assassination. Does not work out. Clinging to life and clinging towards a victory is Tanuki, and it seems like it's been well earned by Brbrpatapim. The backline's been demolished, and while Craggy may get themselves a revenge frag in the form of a knockout onto Pokey, well, it's not going to be much more than that.
Yeah, there's that adaptation coming on through. Brbrpatapim knew that there was a potential for Necros to go in and use an ultimate before Patapim could make their move, and so they decided to send their backline with their front line with the Eternal Bond so that the Spider-Man could not dive in and force a peel because everyone was already peeling for each other. Necros is still going to have the spectacular spin, but getting to use it in a retake situation is a lot harder said than done, as now it's going to have to be, yeah, there's the web spin, trying to connect, gets close enough to the strategist. Out comes the freedom charge though from Polly, and no one goes down.
Yeah, Living Legend there used as just a defensive ultimate, making sure that the damage could not be delivered to a breakpoint. Polly just annoying Andrew as he tries to move in onto a backline. Feast of the Abyss, no frags this time, and once again the meteor rain will land down upon a squishy, but it's stalled out by a tree. Great play there by KG, hiding amongst the forest to make sure they're not found in the trees. Invisible boundary put up on the point, and while they are isolated, Boga can't go that deep to try and pick up the frag. It would just be too risky to try and make happen. The Rage of Ultron is declared, and the damage is starting to pour on forth. Finally finding those final hits. It's a 3K for Craggy. I'll call him Fraggy.
Lovely use of the Ultron just to package everyone from Brbrpatapim into a small enclosed space and finally push them off of that point. We're headed to final fight territory. Enza swaps over to the Strange. They are going to have the Eternal Bond coming on through from Alex. That's CC immunity, so you don't have to worry about getting silenced by Boga's Psionic Seduction. You might have to worry about your players walking outside of it, though.
Oh, Boga already down, just solo focused by the Dance of the Butterflies. It was the tango, but they were unprepared for. Vulnerable as Craggy taking additional damage, but Poki's got more than enough in the back pocket. Andrew denied the disengage via the force physics, and it's going to come down to one last fight for Schmungus to survive Krakoa.
It's Galactic Legend. Galactic Legend versus Feast of the Abyss. If Andrew gets the damage boost coming on through from KG, they are going to have pick potential. Brbrpatapim are going to have to make sure that they're playing so spread apart so that the Venom doesn't get multiple players all at once.
All right, Boga looking to try and open this one up. Prime Boga, the Strange Messiah themselves, onto their preferred hero. Andrew stepping up here, able to easily access that backline with the diving strike. There it is. That's going to be the cellular corrosion applied. The Feast of the Abyss as well. Ken and Alex find themselves utterly dismembered. The knockouts from Andrew come thick and fast, and Schmungus are almost back in control. There's not going to be any chance to try and turn this one around. Aerial combat from the Strange touching might well be out of the question for Brbrpatapim as Pokey goes down too. Craggy floats above it all, feeling imperious and magnanimous as they rain down damage and healing, and Schmungus tie us up on Krakoa.
We did say that this would be a close series potentially, and it is indeed as we go all the way to the third point of Cradle. This Venom's Feast of the Abysses have been absolutely lethal at the moment. Brbrpatapim having both of their two strategists in the same place, trying to play Peel for each other. And I mean, granted, you do have things like that Invis Woman, right, where you can use the force physics, knock the Venom back, but Andrew's doing such a good job of counting the cooldowns before he commits in to using that ultimate so that he can't get pushed away from where he wants that source of damage to be applied. Brbrpatapim will be able to open up with Galactic Legend as well as Dance of the Butterflies, but Desley is going to have the invisible boundary, which may well set the boundary against Brbrpatapim's forces.
Might be all we need. Necros with a spectacular spin here. Like previously, we've seen Polly use the Living Legend to keep that one at bay, giving the overhealth, making sure that those breakpoints for frags are not found, and that Necros can't find the knockouts off the back of it. Maybe with a little bit more prep coming through from Andrew, you'll be able to find those on some weaker targets. For now, Necros, we're just going to follow him around as he makes his reconnaissance rounds.
Look at the rollout, or I guess the swing out, coming on from the Spider-Man. Necros trying to get the information read. Where's the spectacular spin going to be landed? Out comes the Living Legend early, and it was a bait! But Alex still finds the first pick onto the Spider-Man.
The bait and the switch is pressed into Spider-Man, that much is for certain. Grabbed up by Boga, Polly likely to be kicked into Cerebro itself in the middle, but easy survivability here, and Tanuki wants to try and finish this first fight off quickly using the Galactic Legend. Going up against the Soul Resurgence is a bunch of healing, but the focus fire is simply to it. Necros got 3. Hold up, this might not be over just yet. Necros trying to make it work. Pokey there managed to find this one. Tanuki falling low. Boga out here likely has full charge already, but is going to go up against Polly. Swapping out maybe of a diamond form. There's only so little HP left, and the Aegis isn't in position to help them. Brbrpatapim should get the first cap.
Well, you say that, but Necros is back. And Pokey is forced into stealth. Necros just so much faster. Craggy as well on the aerial is going to be able to, with the Encephalo Beam, just force the Psylocke further away, and still there is no team that's been able to cap. Invis Boundary gets invested on the side of Ken. Necros trying to grab everyone outside of it, but it looks like Schmungus are just going to have to wait. And off of the back of that Invis Boundary investment, Brbrr have been able to pick up first cap.
Yeah, big investment from Ken, but it works out. It's going to start paying dividends as Brbrpatapim start to accrue their own percentage here.
Yeah, Enzo on this Magneto is going to be able to keep up the pressure onto Craggy's Rage of Ultron. Schmungus, like we talked about, they do have a lot of mobility to get into Brbrpatapim's backline, but what they don't have is anchor potential if the fight goes into a brawl stage on that point, which is why Brbrpatapim invested a strategist ultimate to be able to pick it on up, as Tanuki actually swaps over to the torch off of that Star-Lord to keep up the pressure on the Venom. Rage of Ultron comes on out, trying to keep everyone healed up through the Dance of the Butterflies, and trades have come through for both sides.
Yeah, Pokey punished on the disengage, but look at that, the vulnerability coming through from a cloak. This could be a triple mind control if only Boga can find the angle. Tanuki manages to dodge away, and Alex exactly the same. The metallic bulwark from Enzo onto themselves is enough to keep it defended, but now you've got to deal with Schmungus on the point with a diamond form Emma Frost, and boy is she scary. The invisible boundary dragged on up here by Desley, keeping the rest of the team sustained. Tanuki just plays from on top, trying trying to get all of the information for their team, but all they can do is watch most of their fellows fall on down. A sleep came on through. I believe that was reflected, actually, coming through from Polly. A little bit nasty with it, it's admittedly.
Okay, Cap finally goes the way of Schmungus' side. It did cost them 2 ultimates in that fight, and Invis Boundary is going to be gone, and Pokey just immediately out of respawn takes down Necros on the Spider-Man. Berber are going to just commit. Full send through the portal, going quickly with a supernova when there's no strategist ultimate except the Mantises on the other side, and the Mantises' heal is just so slow that Berber still think that they can win through.
Soul Resurgence good to go, and Alex falling early could spell doom for this one. Still, the Freedom Charge is going to be invested here by Polly onto the back line. They want to find the backs of this. Necros with a spectacular spin. Seems like everyone's been able to be taken away. And Boger's focused down by the Dance of the Butterflies. A Dance Macabre. A subprime Boger in this case. And Brbrpatapim managed to turn it around as Boger's already swapping over to the Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he's getting ready to try and find one of those portal plays. They have to make sure though. Oh no, he thought about it. And they've decided that they can afford to give a little bit more point percentage. They want to have it in case it goes to an overtime stall-out fight. As Necros gets taken down early, is not going to be there to be able to open up this fight. Ken holds on to that Invis Boundary too. It's going to be up to Craggy with the Rage of Ultron to try and force it.
Put some pep in my step.
A big play from Necros could be everything. Damage boosted. Andrew's done the groundwork. An uppercut here is going to force out the invisible boundary. That's going to be a lot of sustainability that's missing later on in the fight. Tanuki manages to drag themselves inside that boundary. An attempt to escape doesn't work out as fire clusters from Tanuki scorch the uniform of Spider-Man. And Desley can't stand up to the tide of Brbrpatapim. And they cap the point surely.
Teleport is about to come on through from Craggy, who's already swapped over to the Strange, but it's not going to be in time. Brbrpatapim find the picks, find the tempo to deny the overtime contest, and will be able to win out over Schmungus on map number 1. But we're seeing a very close series between these two teams.
This is a surprisingly close series. Like, I don't want to undersell how good Schmungus are, but like Brbrpatapim, we expect to be one of the only teams that could potentially destroy Virtus Pro.
Yes.
And the 1 block a week Schmungus, they get their 2 hours, they get their block. They're kind of exchanging. I mean, I feel like domination is probably the strongest mode for Schmungus, with like how well it favors the Spider-Man and the Venom as a diving duo. But this was also a little bit of an awkward draft for Schmungus. A lot of strategist options got taken away. Maybe if they manage to protect a strategist that they can get a little bit more value out of in the next round, maybe we see things go a little bit closer.
Yeah, the silver lining for the team that loses the first map is that they get to actually pick the side that they start on in the next one. So they could well pick attacker's side to deny Brbrpatapim having the opportunity of taking 3 strategists in a row off of the board, while also being able to save the best for themselves. So we'll have to wait and see, because as we've seen, Schmungus like to play things like the Scarlet Witch. We also know that the Panther is in the back pocket too, but with the strategist lineup that they had access to, with the limited strategist lineup that they had access to off of a lovely target ban system coming out from Brbrpatapim, the only thing that they could really do that would give them any potential sustainability to match wits against Berber was go for a triple strategist lineup. And if they wanted to use the Ultron to try and make up for the fact that they were lacking one of the duelists, that forced their hand into having to play the Invis and the Mantis. And unfortunately, Soul Resurgence on the Mantis is very easy to be able to punch through from any form of damage.
Yeah, to just go back on one of the points you made earlier about choosing side, of course, just depending on what side you are, that does change in our advanced ban system for the tournament. Which order you kind of get to do your bans in. There are 2 separate orders, and they are decided by which side of the map you're starting on. So sometimes you want to choose your side of the map based on that order. So maybe you don't go up against a triple ban in a row, and maybe you forgo like an earlier protect in order to try and make that one work. It was a very impressive game, though. I'm thoroughly expecting the next map to be an absolute doozy as Schmungus take us to their own home grounds. We'll find out where we're going in the Marvel Universe right after this break. Sit up straight in that gaming chair and chew your gaming gum, because it's time to go pro, baby. It's map number 2 here between Schmungus and Brbrpatapim. And Moxie, that was quite the interesting opening map we had on Krakoa.
That was a very interesting map. It went all the way to 3 rounds. It definitely had a couple of fights where it felt like it could have gone to Schmungus's side, but Brbrpatapim doing a very good job of engineering a better pick and ban phasing, weighted the map significantly into their favor. So now moving into map number 2, I wonder whether Schmungus are going to be mixing a couple of things up, namely the side that they're going to be starting on, because starting on that attacker side definitely feels like an advantage over the defense.
Yeah, our targeted, our advanced pick and bans in this tournament does have like various minutia. Not only are you banning only for the enemy team and you're protecting for your own, you've got to choose which order you would prefer to have your picks and bans in, because only one team can get those 3 bans in a row to really set the tempo and kind of have an agenda on the kind of game they want to be playing or what they want to be playing against.
Yeah, not just that, but the attacker side also, you're going to see it in a minute now. Wait, Schmungus chose defense. Interesting. The attacker side get the first save. So not only can you target an entire role, you can also make sure to save the best hero in the game, and there's nothing that the other side can do about it. And for Brbrpatapim, that's going to be an automatic lockdown on Magneto. Brbrpatapim will not be able, or rather, no, Schmungus did choose the attack. There we go. That's sort of what we expected. But that is going to be Schmungus locking down the Magneto and Brbrpatapim removing both the Venom and the Luna in response.
Surely we won't be able to walk away with 3 strategist bans again. I mean, this time we've had to invest a ban on the Venom. Andrew's put the Fear of God in them. The fear of null, perhaps, has been placed in them. Too many double KOs on the backline with the Feast of the Abyss and Solar Corrosion. I mean, to be fair, this also kind of frees up KG, because while Andrew doesn't need the damage boost to get value out of the Venom Ultimate, the damage boost, the inspiration on the Venom Ultimate is a high value pick, and this kind of frees KG from the shackles of Mantis in many ways.
True, and now that Schmungus are on the attacker side, they should not be subjected to having to run triple strategists to actually have enough sustain to run a composition that they decide to choose upon. Brbrpatapim have been able to guarantee that they can still play Magneto, and they're also going to be able to guarantee that they can still have Polly playing upon that Captain America. Schmungus have weakened the Psylocke that is likely going to be running alongside it by removing the Luna from the pool of Brbrpatapim's strategist lineup, so we're not going to have the idle aura getting used on that one, as they target out Enzo's Hulk as well.
I mean, it seems a little weird considering we've seen 2 Vanguard saves already, but admittedly, Tanuki with the Gamma Squid is fairly dangerous. And there's going to be the save on the Cloak, and they were like, listen, we want to have one strategist we're super comfortable with, you know? Like, we want to try and save this one. Admittedly, Desley can play everything, but you don't want to be forced into these weird compositions. I wouldn't be surprised to see Invisband here, and it's currently being hovered by Brbrpatapim. We're like, okay, we're still going to make you try. We're still going to make you play Mantis, by the way. We're going to try and force that one out. You can only have one of the normal strategists on your team, so this might see a bit of a pivot back towards that triple strategist we've seen previously, with Necros giving supplementary healing from the Ultron.
Yeah, so to give a little bit of context for the potential of why we saw that Hulk ban, it was actually something that Brbrpatapim ran against 0%. They ran Hulk, Cap, Star-Lord, Psylocke, Cloak and Dagger, and Luna on Krakoa, and it was a 100% to 0.
Oh boy.
Capture. So removing the Hulk from play does mean that you weaken some of the utilities that's going to be available, plus it also makes it much harder for Brbrpatapim to be able to bounce the point, because if you have a Hulk and a Captain America on Symbiotic Surface, which is a map that is all about high ground control, then you're going to be at a much better advantage in traversing the map in comparison to some of the other Vanguards who maybe have to rely on their own feet to be able to traipse over there instead.
Only losers have feet, Moxie. It's time to lock in, chat. Match point here for Brbrpatapim in our winners semis here in our group stage GSL bracket. It's going to be Schmungus opening up on their own attack. And what is Craggy going to be playing is the question. It seems like the Wolverine for now is going to be one of the primary concerns. Unsurprising, considering that you might be going up against the Captain America. You really want to use that to just try and shut down Polly, make him a little bit more apprehensive of diving into your backline.
Yeah, they do have a lot of potential shutdown on this Captain America with both the Wolverine, but also the EMEA as well, with that diamond form, just grabbing him out whenever he tries to dive. But if you use the grab onto the Captain America, what do you have left to clear that Psylocke? As Pokey is actually not being able to find these opportunities right now. Schmungus doing a very good job of keeping up the pressure onto both the Cap and the Psylocke, forcing Pokey to have to back on out as the sedation actually comes out onto Polly, cutting off the tempo change up of the Psylocke and the Captain America and allowing Schmungus to finally take control of high ground.
Yeah, waiting for the go time here. Maybe if Enzo hits a nasty iron volley. Yep, KG falls low and Pokey's there to pick up the pieces, or rather scatter them across the symbiotic surface. And here we go, chasing the stragglers. An attempt to disengage here from Schmungus. Will we be able to get out with their lives is the question. Knockouts are plenty on the docket. If only you can open up the can and finish off your plate. Enzo managing to find those. That's my controller god right there. He's on the rollers and he's sticking it to him.
Yeah, I mean, Tanuki at the moment is just uncontested. Schmungus are doing so much trying to deal with the Captain America and the Psylocke in their backline, trying to stop the dive commitment from coming on through, and also contest Enzo on this Magneto on that frontline core holding down the point. That this Torch is getting a free pass entirely, and Tanuki's already got a supernova. His health bar is barely dropping below the 250 full intently. It's just Necros who's shooting him down as Craggy actually swaps from the Wolverine onto the Winter Soldier to have the bionic hook to try and play havoc against the dive.
Yeah, deprioritizing Vanguards here. Oh, was that a Metallic Bulwark onto Necros to save them from the Meteor M? It might well have just missed in this case, but Craggy either way assassinated in the back by Pokey, finding a knockout, and a second as well onto Desley. Pokey's feasting right now, showing exactly why they were the pickup for this squad to try and make them into a potential world beater. And Tanuki saying, hey, don't you dare forget about me. I'm the blessed child of OG, baby. And rolls away with a frag of their own.
Yeah, Eternal Bond. You can play as aggressively as you want in the middle of your Cloak and Dagger ultimate. It does mean, though, that Schmungus are going to be able to have a Kraken impact, and they only have to deal with the Invis boundary coming on through from Ken's hands. Although Tanuki might be able to just cut out the impact of it entirely if he decides to utilize Supernova and zone Schmungus away. But that's what Boga is going to be waiting for the Meteor M to be able to absorb a good chunk of the Torch's fire.
Damage boost onto the Ultron. It's a little bit scary, a little bit spooky. Well, it's spooky for Desley as well. The fear proves too much, taken over by Tanuki in the back. Great double bubble coming out from the Magneto, utilizing that team up with the EMEA. Rage of Ultron also going to be thrown on in right here, covering the approach of Boga, who attempted for a quite ambitious mid-air Meteor M onto Tanuki, but of course was the only target that was proffered, given that everyone else was inside the invisible boundary. Moving forward with the Soul Resurgence, Desley thinks that this one is winnable, and it's a full investment here for Schmungus. They've decided it's now or never, laying down the Meteor M! A mid-air interception onto Necros, the air-to-air technology discovered by Brbrpatapim. And while Enzo was temporarily stunned by the Sonic Seduction, there's still plenty to be done right here. Desley under siege is going to be able to heal themselves up inside the Eternal Bond. Cage is given all the sustainment that's needed here over to the side of Schmungus, but they still haven't capped that first tick just yet. Ollie's still just playing around in the backline. Shenanigans from the Liberty Meister himself. Pokey rolls on in with the Dance of the Butterflies, but everyone comes in together to share out the damage, democratizing the Sword of Damocles that Pokey was holding above them. And with Tanuki falling down, it's still even trades. It's early in the back for the side of Craggy. Still feeling very vulnerable, and even more so with the window applied to him. Necros goes down as well, and Schmungus get away with this with a single tick, but little more than that.
Yeah, Dez is going to try and go for the strange TP, but I don't think it's going to be in time. And there it is. Overtime burns out as the portal opens. Schmungus gets stalled out entirely as Brbrpatapim's defense was just too stalwart They had to deal with so many different angles of approach. Polly and Pokey managing to secure the Captain America and the Psylocke, even down the Luna, were just so detrimental for Schmungus to have to deal with. It slowed their approach down entirely. And again, it allowed Tanuki to just get so much freedom of space to do whatever he wanted on that torch, that by the time Schmungus had dispatched the Captain America and Psylocke threat knocking at their doors, Tanuki was already breaking through their windows.
We had a chat to Enzo on, not Monday, on Thursday. On day one, we had a chat to Enzo about, listen, why did the 4-core coming through from what was OG pick up Pokey and Polly instead of playing with who you were before? And Enzo was saying that they wanted to have some players on their roster who grinded as hard as they did, who lived and breathed this game. Polly and Pokey, they seem to have fit the bill, and all of that grinding at this point seems to be paying off. They are having an absolute masterclass of a game right here. Brbrpatapim, this acquisition makes them a powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, what looked like a close matchup on Krakoa is looking entirely differently now, but Schmungus' composition is looking entirely different. This is what we were expecting. Kragi is going to be coming out onto that Scarlet Witch, Boga on the Doctor Strange, Andrew on that Magneto, so it is going to be full protect the Scarlet Witch squad. As you can see, he's even getting the imperative patch coming on through from Necros on this Ultron, but they've got one tick that they can afford to give, which means that Brbrpatapim can either chip down the space that Schmungus have, or they can just go straight to point and force them to give up the high ground, whatever.
W scout from Polly. No more battle recall beacon, no more second chances, at least for another 45 seconds yet. And so there's a timer that Brbrpatapim are working on. They're slowly eroding their space. Look at them shepherding these strategists into the back line. Out comes a little bubble of healing to try and keep yourself within, but Andrew has to continually keep his feet planted upon the point and keep it contested.
Kragi is just not getting the opportunity to build up the reality erasure. In fact, he's away from his two vanguards because of how split Schmungus are forced right now. They do find the first pick onto Ken, significantly weakening Brbrpatapim's sustainability, and they manage to take down Tanuki, but not before Tanuki takes KG out of the equation. And Kragi down 2 means that no win condition being farmed up for Schmungus. What they have been able to farm, though, is a Rage of Ultron, but can Necros get the opportunity to use it?
Imperative patch used, I believe. Necros just about escaping with the skin of their teeth, and still has the extermination protocol coming on through. They want Pokey so bad. Get rid of that carry. I've had enough of him in my back line. It's an emergency usage of the Meteor M, and there's a burnable Cosmic Yarn amplifier. The extra damage coming through from Andrew. This could prove ruinous towards that. Still impacts the box. No enemy hero is going to be suffering at the hands of that ultimate. There's percentage accruing in favor of Brbrpatapim as Alex places them up. Here comes the reality erasure. They finally take Crag out in the midst of all of it. All the pocketing in the world was not enough when you're facing up against the majestic forces of liberty levied by Polly. A living legend starts to roam the battlefield and give over additional health to all of these squishy backliners. Only 2 grabs here by Prime Boga. They managed to convert onto 1 off the back of it. It's still a huge investment coming through with the invisible boundary. Great sustain for the side of Brbrpatapim, and Schmungus can't stand up against the pressure. And there it is, the capture coming through from Brbrpatapim, and they're going to take the series.
Yeah, it's just the harsh nature of reality when you have one tick that you can afford to give over to the attacking side. The defender's hand is forced. Even though you have at the beginning of the map that high ground control that you begin with, the second that the attacker side get one person onto that point, you have to give up all of the space in the world, and you need to make sure that you're coordinating that drop off too, which is why they give up that high ground so easily. They split, they scatter to the far edges of the point in the hopes that they're not going to get taken down early by a Captain America and a Psylocke, by increasing the distance between those two heroes, not by trying to stack more players and peel it off them. They'll be able to live, sustain, build an ultimate, hit a win condition, but Brbrpatapim did such a good job of playing the long game. They take the space away. They know that Schmungus are going to have their backs quite literally against the wall, and it allows Tanuki to build up to that supernova, cutting the team away, so that even when Kragi has the reality erasure, there's no peel coming through from his team. There's no opportunity for Boga or Andrew to throw themselves valiantly in front of that Scarlet Witch and utilize their shields to block the damage that could take Kragi down.
Yeah, it's kind of been the Fedora's Glaze hour here for me, but I want to take a moment to point out how much Enzo did in that matchup, picking up the MVP, which is obviously the greatest reward you could possibly have. But also sitting on 64% accuracy while not being able to farm that vanguards that effectively, going up against a fairly nebulous composition. When it comes to the middle of these fights, Enzo is not missing shots. We saw that mid-air Meteor M onto Necros as well. Like, bro's on the rollers. He's got the controller in hand. Bit of a beast, I'm not gonna lie.
That was the result as well that we were, I think, expecting to see coming through from Brbrpatapim, right? They're just complete and utter dismantling of Schmungus. And I think they were coming into this day expecting to be running into that Scarlet Witch Strange composition because they looked far more comfortable dispatching that than the triple strategists that we saw on Krakoa. So we're seeing that Brbrpatapim are able to split their time and deal and practice into not just meta compositions, but non-meta compositions too, which can be challenging for even the strongest of teams because of how little time you actually have. It takes a significant chunk of your time, your schedule, to have to practice into dealing with a non-meta composition, and you're going to be coming up against far less non-meta teams. So in terms of waiting your time out to value for it, it actually makes more logical sense that you would practice more for the meta compositions than the non-meta.
That much is true. Still, for Schmungus and their non-meta compositions, it's not over. This was only the winner's bracket. The elimination bracket down below is where Schmungus will have their fate in their own hands. And they're not going to have to go up against Brbrpatapim down there, which is a very dangerous proposition. And a very dangerous man from Klimtar was the one and only Enzo. Let's get him in for another chat and show off everyone's favorite French food poster. How's it going, bud? Nice to see you again.
I'm doing good, and you're like, yeah. It's me again. You might see other people soon. They are a little bit shy. You need to give them time, you know. But you'll see someone else than me soon.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Enzo. Can you give us a little bit of an idea, perhaps like when we saw this matchup, we were expecting it to be a very much dominant performance coming on through from Brbrpatapim with all of the sort of rumors surrounding the team, the results that you guys have been finding, the fact that everyone is thinking you guys are going to be able to take Virtus Pro down or at least come the closest to it. And then Krakoa went the full 3 rounds. Was there a reason why that first map was so close in comparison to Symbiotic Surface, which was just an entire dismantling?
Basically, we didn't want to humiliate them in front of 15k viewers. So we said, okay, we're gonna give you a point, we're gonna let you farm some clips so you're happy, and then we're gonna roll on you on the second map. Just, you know, yeah, the domination on this map, we will always give a point to like really friendly with that. And on second one, say, okay, let's show how we usually play, and then it went kind of fast.
You're one of the most dangerous Vanguard players in EMEA, I think, and we saw that in particular on Symbiotic Service with your Magneto. For the aspiring, you know, for the GM Magnetos out there who are looking to take it to the next level, do you have any tips for the Metallic Warlord on how to play him in these compositions?
I think what you should do is that you take your controller, you plug that in, you move that stick, that one, with the aim assist, and you shoot. And that works really well. But yeah, no, outside of this, I think it's really important to look at your teammate with your bubbles. Basically, you have to use your bubbles every time to get charge for your right click, because every right click is a potential kill on a squishy target. But yeah, the main thing is turn around, pay attention to your teammate, look at them if they really need, and try to one-shot people with your right click.
And in your opinion, as a Vanguard player, we see a lot of teams immediately banning out one of those Vanguards, either the Magneto or the EMEA, in terms of the advanced pick or ban phase. Where would you weight Magneto and EMEA? Do you think one of them is stronger than the other, or is it purely situational?
I think people want to ban Mag because of the new meta, where there was a lot of Storm, there was a lot of Mag, Finisher. There was a lot of Iron Man in this type of character, basically. And that was like, Mag was already counter into them, so they just permanently banned it. And Emma, even after the nerf, I think the character is still really good. So I can't really tell which one is the best. I guess it's situational, it's depending on what you wanna play. But I'll rather ban Mag. This character is kinda annoying. Yeah, it's really situational, you can't really tell.
how's your team adapting to the new ban system, our advanced tournament ban system? Do you prefer attacking or defending first most of the time when it comes to, do you like having that first protect or like having 3 bans in a row later on?
I think the new system is really good because it's really easy for the game in the way that you can't mirror the comp. If you're losing, because of the ban, most of the time you won't be able to just mirror the comp that you're losing to. So you have to find by yourself a composition that is good against what they have, compared to before, who was just like literally mirroring over time. I think in attack and defense is just depend. If you want to break the mantle, pushing in 3 minutes is really good, but it's also really good to defend in the first point, like we did. So, you know, it just depend on the map, depend on the strategy. Can't really tell, can't really leak anything, although it's really hard.
And because we know now you're continuing in the upper bracket, do you have a specific team that you want to match up? I know a lot of people are hoping that we get to see the Brbrpatapim versus Virtus Pro matchup coming through soon, but is there a team other than Virtus Pro that you're looking forward to being able to take on?
Not really. I think right now it's just a race. Who's gonna beat VP first? And I want to be that team to beat VP first after this 23 win streak, something like this. Yeah. So if I see anyone else than me beating VP, I'll be really mad because I want to be that one that choke them down for the first time. Other than that, yeah, there's not really team. I think it's always fun to face my old teammates, Yokonda. I would like to face them in a match. Otherwise, LG will always have a good rivalry with LG. So yeah, with these two.
Well, as much as in our interest to have the Enzo being mad content farm, I hope that you managed to get the matchup that you're so desperately looking for in Brbrpatapim, able to have a close one against VP. Thank you so much for joining us, Enzo. Congratulations on your victory, and we'll see you deeper in our winners bracket.
Thank you for interviewing me. See ya.
All right, that was Enzo coming through from